right, welcome to another episode in our Shared Services Advantage series. And in our last episode, we talked about change management and how to entrust and bring people along when shared services is being stood up. But today, we're diving into a topic that's pretty much everywhere right now, and that is AI. And most service leaders and most of the talk you see today on LinkedIn or YouTube is about AI in field service is really primarily focused on the technicians, right? Helping them look up parts faster, troubleshoot equipment, crunch data from the field and from the equipment and all of that. But what about the rest of the operation, right? What about customer service? What about dispatch, billing, invoicing, collections? That's the back office engine that keeps a company running. And that's where AI is starting to make a huge impact. So today, we're going to make it real. We're going to go into case studies, actual before and after results, and what AI really looks like when it's running inside shared services. So joining us today is Ryan Smith, who incubated Mura inside Origo's shared services operation. And he saw the opportunity to bring AI into the lower middle market where teams, frankly, are just buried in manual work, and he's been proving it process by process. So, Ryan, welcome to the show, my man.
Awesome, Yassin. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're excited to have you join us. Yeah, absolutely, man. So, why don't you start us out with your story? Like, how did Mura get incubated inside shared services, and what made you see this as such a big opportunity for a field service company? So, you've got an interesting story there.
Yeah, so for a quick background, I started another company. I'm based out of New York. Started another company that really focused on B2B, wholesale, enterprise transactions. We created a B2B marketplace for cannabis companies. Over the last 10 years, we have 80% market share in the US and raised a couple $100 million for that business. But what we did was build really a lot of the back-end software around what happens to a wholesale order on its full life cycle. And so after building that business, I transitioned from CEO to a board member. We were doing research in a bunch of different verticals. And I got really excited, as we were when we were building my last business, in verticals that I think are overlooked, but totally essential. And so I got to meet Yassin through a mutual friend, some of our investors. And I said, let's fly out to Clark, Philippines, and basically spend a week with your team to understand how you keep your customers humming, growing, and improving. And so we came and basically did the night shift. Can't get more than 12 hours time difference in the Philippines from New York. And we shadowed, I think almost 70 different teammates. And what we found at Origo in the shared services part of the business was these totally essential workflows that were tied to what we call the order to cash process. So from the moment one of Origo's customers has a broken piece of equipment or an HVAC machine or a commercial kitchen device that's gone offline, there are 80 different systems that large customers use to communicate to their provider. And then to dispatch a technician, there's another 10 or 15 systems. And so just between those two order ingestion and technician dispatch steps, you have hundreds of people working for you, moving those orders around. And so when we first saw that, my co-founder, Claire Doravich, she was my first hire at LeafLink. She's now my co-founder here at Mura, alongside James Mackey. We saw all this happening, and it was really a lot of data movement.
High on the opportunity, pun intended.
Yeah, well, I remember actually we were set up in your office, Yassin, and I walked in and I said to Claire, I was like, "Oh my God, I think we could really help them with some old tech, some new tech, obviously AI, and a lot of that data movement is in completely disparate systems, and there's elements of reasoning that are not the most complex." But are intricate, are varied, that has to be done. And so we thought we could automate a lot of that. And one of the first things we built with Origo as our partner, and obviously your customers, Yassin, get to use this, is called AI Dispatch. And so I could stop there and answer any questions, but happy to share some more details of that.
Yeah. I mean, he knows the pain in dispatch and Fortis. So maybe Gyner, you can speak to that.
The portal problem.
Yeah, the portal problem.
The portal problem. And just so we're clear to the audience, portals are third parties. Some of them call them intermediaries, just so all the terminology means the same thing. Essentially, it's a third party that acts as a agent for an end customer that brings a service event into the service agent to say, hey, I need service on something, right? And somewhere. And and that's a system that's totally outside of the ERP/CRM of the service provider. So now you have to kind of communicate with that system. And most service providers do that manually. Like the person essentially is the dispatcher, CSR, whatever they're called, is working in two systems in conjunction with each other, and it's super inefficient, right? Most, in one of my past businesses, as much as 40% of your volume comes from these third parties. So essentially, a different way of saying that is 40% of the time, your dispatcher is typing the service call in two places, right? Yep. And that's how inefficient it is.
Or 80.
Or 80.
And what we found was that the number of these third-party portals is growing by like 10% a year, because it makes a lot of sense then for these larger companies to have their own internal system that they can send out the orders. And then we'll get to this, but when the job comes in, you have to communicate with those systems. Yep. When there's status updates, when technicians are on the ground, they have like 5 apps that they have to log in when they're on site. And then when the invoice gets made, it has to be double, triple entered to the format that those customers want on one of their 80 systems. And we're like, oh my God.
Yeah. So much so that, right, you literally cost this out in your MSA or SOW to the client, right? If we need to manage like a portal that is like, your own portal, right? Like that's an extra cost because you need to resource that, especially if there's an SLA, right?
That's right. I mean, well, not only that, the way to think about it is all of those are failure points for getting paid if you're a service provider.
Right.
The end customer is going to say, well, you didn't IVR the exact time, or your SLA was a little off, or
this line item was wrong.
That line item was wrong, or you sent me the invoice 3 days too late, or something, right? And all of a sudden you're having to give some kind of a discount on the back end in order to just get paid for work that you did, that really all this admin, which is a non-value add for your core business, right, got in the way of you just getting paid for the work that you did.
Right. And multiply that by thousands and thousands of transactions every day. So Ryan, paint us the picture, like what before looked like, and what changed after AI came in and in the dispatch purchase order.
Totally. So I mean, through Origo and for your customers, you guys are handling tens of thousands of transactions every week, and so those were all being done manually. And what we found was like the average order ingestion took about 10 minutes. So we were able to, on the first release, cut that down to sub like 4.5 minutes, which was a doubling right there. What's also really cool about that is we were able as well to relieve some of the backlog. So for a lot of the larger customers that your customers serve, they need a technician there fixing it within 24 hours.
Yeah, like emergency service, or the SLA is very tight.
But there was one of the first design partner customers that we worked with had actually a 9-hour backlog to ingest orders. So what that meant was they only then had 24 minus the 9. They only had 15 hours to dispatch and fix a technician to fix something. And so we were able to not only speed up the ingestion of orders, but really eat into their backlog. So then it went from, on their busiest days, it was like 9.4 hours down to an hour and a half. And so now instead of
critical is because on their contract, they have a time to resolution agreement. So like
one strike and they could be out.
So Ryan Yassin. So to the listeners that are on the phone that are probably thinking this question right now, or are going to listen to this at some point, how'd you guys do it? Like without giving away the total secret sauce here. So I know there's some secret, some really good kind of proprietary info here. Like, how did that happen? Like make it real for an operator who's listening to this.
So it's a mix of, I'd say, old and new. So we directly integrated into the backend ERP system that the orders have to come into. So that's the old, like API, endpoints, right? All that different kind of work everyone knows about. The part that's new and got us really excited about founding Mura is that we can use a lot of the large language models on the front end of that ingestion process, so that regardless of the format that it comes in, regardless if it's an email or a call or through a portal, we can just pull it in and standardize unstructured data. And so that we used a bunch of different models. We use Gemini for some things, OpenAI for others. They have their different strong suits. We actually developed a piece of software that tells us which model is operating best at any given week because they're all developing so quickly. And so that was really the twofold. And what sits in the middle is, I think it's still important here, just like because people have concerns about job security, there's still very much a human in the loop that is now actually 2 or 3x as effective of a teammate because they're using Mura software within the Origo ecosystem. And then for a lot of these PE companies, they're thinking about margin, but they're not thinking about downsizing. They're thinking about growing. Yeah. And so then it's like, well, what if the 5 people you have could operate like 15? Exactly.
And from a more less technical sense. So typically, let's say from a work order comes in through service channel, right, and you get an email into the inbox. You need a human to pick up that email, take all the information in that email, and then enter it into the ERP. That process before required a human to interpret an email because emails come in different shape and and different fields and all of that, right? So there was no one-up because we had stupid automation before, right? Rule-based automation. Take this field and put it, the text in this field and then put it there. But for these kind of emails, like there's no automation to transfer all of that data. You gotta think through like the type of machine and the SLA and like it requires intelligence, right? And that's why it required a human. So a simple automation couldn't really do that. So we had to, Ryan and the team had to inject AI in there to interpret these emails, regardless of what format they came in, and then auto-populate the ERP fields, right? The type of equipment, the customer serial number, right? So it auto-populates it. Go ahead, Ryan.
And I think people get nervous at some points because it could remind you of some of these like older school deterministic bots, where it's like if something changes on the page or there's a field is like 4 inches to the left, it just like doesn't work anymore. I think that's we're entering a whole new world on this
RPA,
now, where it's actually
the
RPA stuff
breaks down.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so, this isn't the mapping of robot process automation. I know you guys called it RPA. But
yes.
To the people like me who didn't know what that was before, this isn't the mapping of robot process automation. This is essentially having a level of AI intellect look at forms, interpret the information, and actually carry it through.
Regardless whether you move the field up or down, which let's call it dumb automation, would break. If you change a field size or you change the order or you change the description or whatever, it would break immediately. And there's a high level of maintenance, like every day or every week, and that creates backlogs and errors and all of that jazz. But where the genius of what Ryan did is like, okay, regardless of what changed, we don't care about that because we have intelligence interpreting all of that data, and then it can understand these changes without having, create, hundreds of rules. And
the other thing is processes can change too, right?
Yeah.
So it's just like maybe you decide that a certain type of break fix has a higher priority than it did 6 months ago. We need to learn those things, and the old way would have been let us know that this thing has changed, even if it's very minor, then we can update the system to account for it. Now it's actually learning by doing, and I think that's another thing that makes a lot of this so much more scalable and valuable.
So maybe Ryan, let's go into maybe the PO process, right? So so that's the dispatch. Anything around purchase orders? I know you've done also some good work there.
Yeah, so on the order to cash process, we talked about like dispatch and order ingestion. Then there are the things that happen to the order while it's being served. One of the areas that a customer of ours really ran into slowdown was on purchase order generation. So this is when a technician needs to go to a parts house and buy a piece that actually has to then get installed. And in order to buy that, they usually need to call into the office, generate a PO, get the PO number, get the receipt, send that receipt back into the office to be logged against the work order, which eventually will get made into an invoice. And so this is the case for a number of like the older legacy systems. They don't have a lot of this tooling built in for technicians. So what we decided to do was build it without creating a new app or building any new software that people had to use. Our whole view on Mura is people don't need any more software as a service. Let's just like meet people where they are with the tools they already use. So we built out an automation workflow, again, using AI for technicians to basically email in that they a work order number. We'll come back after we ping their backend system with a new PO, and they can just attach an image to that email, and then we read the image, whether it's a PDF, even handwritten, we'll decipher it, and we log it for them. And so what we found there was, we were able to, that was one, a holdup for a lot of invoices getting generated, but two, technicians were spending about 12 minutes per job just in that process. And so we effectively eliminated that. And so when you think about a technician could maybe do 3 to 6 jobs in a day, you could even add one more job over the course of that day, super powerful. And so that was valuable for that one.
I love the insight here, really, the genius of this technology, and I don't know, with them, to emphasize it and highlight it, there was no change in the technician's process, the back office, like it's a middleware, it's invisible. They didn't have to replace an ERP, they didn't have to replace another software. It's invisible, no change management. So that's, I think, the genius. It's like embedding AI into the existing workflow and just simplifying it. So it's not
like one thing we thought.
Yeah,
one thing like we spent a lot of time thinking about was, there are the 800-pound gorilla software companies already in the space. They play a really important role. We're not interested in disrupting those businesses. I think they get 85, 90% of the job done. And so what we want to do is spend time bringing efficiency to the labor, like the people actually using those systems. Because I think at the end of the day, like if we do what we're doing right at Mura, the word, Yassin, you said invisible, at the front of every Monday morning meeting, we tell the team, it's like, if we do all this right, we won't even have a UI or UX. Like we will be invisible. It's almost invisible highway of automation for transactions. Like that's our ultimate goal.
Yeah, Ryan, doesn't it also just call out like businesses as it grows, inherently things just get more complex? Because I think sometimes what happens is there's this whole idea that your ERP/CRM is like your pill to solve all your problems of the world. And what happens is people lose sight of the fact that customers really drive revenue in a business. And sometimes that complexity just comes right back, right? So every time you add a new customer, there's some level of new complexity or some nuance to their ask, which can't be accommodated by your systems in your business. It just can't, right?
And they usually just throw people at it.
Yeah, and then you just throw people at it, right? So I think the answer is like you're almost embracing that level of inefficiency to say it's going to happen. Why not leverage technology to help you embrace your value proposition to your customer and continue to do that without having the need to always just add people and create these subjective processes all over your business that add a whole bunch of operational complexity. Like, I almost think of it as you guys are like, we used to have the sticky note that the person would have around the monitors, like of all the stuff that they had to remember by customer, right? It's almost like AI is all those sticky notes now.
Yeah, like we'll take care of all that. Totally. Yeah, that's what we want to do.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, that comes, right? So we talked about purchase orders and dispatch. Well, let's go into the invoicing part, right? And collection, and the results there were massive. So maybe Ryan, you can walk us through like the before and after. And this is where really cash flow gets impacted, right? This is where CFOs heads up. I want to listen to this part.
Yeah, so as we followed along the order lifecycle process, what we found was, most companies, when you ask them what's their days sales outstanding, most people will say it's like, assume net 30, 45 to 60 days. What I think a lot of people are not thinking about is the interdepartmental audits and approvals that have to happen inside the company before the invoice is actually sent to
Yep.
the customer, and the 45 to 60 day clock starts.
Yeah.
So then if you actually factor that in, we've seen it take anywhere from 1 to 5 or 6 weeks internally, these audits happening on invoices. And so normally, let's say everything we talked about happens, job is done. Usually there's 3 or 4 different people that have to look at an invoice to approve the different costs on it, to do a margin check, to make sure the technician used the right parts, because based on, you know, the type of job it is, sometimes if they use a vacuum or if they use something very specialized, you got to add a $15 fee or an $80 charge. And so there are all these different people that have to do these reviews. And then once that's done, it usually gets approved by the service manager, or their like basically a more senior person. And then it goes back to billing, invoices created, and it gets sent.
Yeah.
So a lot of this is really rules-based auditing and approvals, kind of similar to what we were talking about before on the order dispatch ingestion. And so we thought, all right, well, why don't we see if we can automate the invoice review process using AI? And that's exactly what we've done. And
Hey, Ryan, let me ask you a question on that, just because I'm thinking about, I was just having this conversation with one of my operational leaders in my business. So tech finishes a work order, right? Because that's what we're saying. The clock really on DSO starts at the work order completion level. It really doesn't start at the invoice issue level, even though technically we measure that as DSO. DSO actually starts if the invoice got done today, if the work got done today. That's technically when your DSO starts, right?
Agreed.
So you're giving yourself credit for your invoice inefficiency in your DSO number. How does, just give me the practicality of how it works. So I come to you and I say, hey, I have a problem. It takes anywhere from 0 to 14 days in my process today to get an invoice out to a customer from the time I complete a work order. Like, how would you guys go solve that for a customer?
So what we do is scope out all of the different rules that are basically being taken to audit that invoice into one, like almost like permissions rules workflow that we apply to the invoice itself. And it's different by customer, it's different by job, it's different by geo, all these different, like different by technician. And so I can kind of give it down to some numbers. So what we've seen across now a couple dozen customers is normally a typical biller could do somewhere between like 20 to 25 invoices in a day. And that's just the first review. What we're able to do is basically take the 3 or 4 reviews, consolidated to 1 or 2, and get it so that a biller could actually cycle through closer to 45 to 50 invoices per day. And so in just that one less review step, we've halved the process of it moving around within the team. One other thing that we're finding too, which is kind of cool, is there are imperfections to the 3 or 4 people auditing an invoice. And so there's missed revenue opportunity often, where sometimes we'll see people will hire a former technician to be a biller because they know this type of job requires this type of additional add-on or this type of part. And so we actually can now have all of that intelligence in the model that's reviewing the invoice. So there's no more missed revenue line items on what the job would have entailed.
Yeah. So if I'm hearing you right, Ryan, so effectively you do a knowledge transfer here. What are all the exceptions, the rules? When you look at invoice, what are you thinking for this type of equipment or this type of job? And you're quite literally documenting it all, and you're just creating rules, and then you're feeding that into the AI and letting the AI do that in seconds instead of someone taking 2 weeks to figure it out and just getting it through.
And to be clear, the way it works right now, it's like a 2-pane screen where we have all of the data that we pulled in from the ERP, plus all the rules that we've learned and a couple of other things. And then on the left is like what we think it should look like. The person that's in that role can still make any changes. And then from there, we're learning and adjusting.
And that's the human in the loop. It's like, it's not fully automated. It's like we've done 99%, 95% of the job. We just need a human to approve it.
Yeah, and we're also like, when we get to, of all the things we built in my last business, helping people get paid was the thing that people loved the most. And when you're touching people, when you're touching invoices and the thing that gets businesses paid, that is super sensitive. And so even if we could completely automate it, we need to build trust. And I think it's really important to have someone in there that's just checking everything, at least right now.
So Gyner, when you hear these numbers, like where does your thoughts go, right? Do you care more about the labor savings? Do you care more about the cash flow improvement? Like, what do these kind of wins mean for you as a CEO of scaling a platform and adding customers every day and doing acquisitions and multiple ERPs and all of that?
I think every business is a little different. So, like capital intensive businesses, the cash flow implications are obviously more important than businesses that don't have as heavy a capital need. Not that capital isn't important, just being clear, because in PE backed businesses, there's a leverage component to everything that we do that we need to monitor. What I'd say is it's important that you prioritize what's like remember this problem case we always talk about, this use case? Like, what is the biggest problem you're trying to solve of all of these, right? Because the interest level will be like, let's go do it all, right?
Yeah.
And really what you should be thinking is, which one is going to give me the highest level, the highest opportunity for success the fastest, so I could use that as a base use case to then go encourage the team to do more, right? Because if you pick the hardest one with the hardest get to start, and maybe it comes half true, then it's a harder sell through the organization to keep going, right? So to me, it's like, if DSO is your biggest problem, and it's probably not your easiest problem, but the problem that probably has like this, what Ryan was talking about, the go get is there, like, then go after that. But maybe it's part of your business is in construction and you write a bunch of quotes, and those quotes need oversight before they're issued based on some logic principles, right? There's a bunch of different areas within like service businesses that you could apply this to. It's which one is the biggest problem that I have right now, and how quickly can I get that problem to be solved?
Yeah, I think getting really like vertical specific and use case specific and going deep on that is really important. And so that's part of the reason we've become more exclusively focused on commercial HVAC and commercial kitchen repair. I want to learn more about fire safety and all those, but like later.
It's very similar, by the way. It's very similar, Ryan.
Okay.
I'm very hoping similar challenges. Yeah, similar challenges.
Well, talking about prioritization, and addressing use cases. So of course, this process is never clean or easy. So maybe Ryan, like, what were some of the biggest
obstacles? Your dog is hungry.
I know. No, he's trying to catch some cats.
You're not paying attention to your dog, you see.
Well, I need an AI to like auto refill.
Yeah.
So Ryan, what were some of the biggest obstacles you face rolling out like AI in the back office and shared services?
I think there's a lot of things that people think they know about AI, and a lot of people they think what AI is right now, and there's still a lot of improvement that needs to happen and development that hasn't happened yet. And so I think people fear this like more down the road concept. The way I look at it is, for a lot of the people who are deploying this, it's like, imagine, I don't know if you've ever seen a spreadsheet before. It was in Excel, but it was literally like large piece of paper with columns and rows. If you're an employee that knew how to use Excel, you're going to have a competitive advantage against the people who are really still using paper. And I think that's the way we think about AI. And so we sell into the C-suite and leadership teams this tool, and they're excited about it. They get it. They want to try it out. And then we train some of the people that are actually using it day to day. And sometimes they're a bit apprehensive. We try to explain to them, it's like, this isn't going away. This is actually a tool for you to be even more competitive as a teammate. Like, let's dive in. And so we knew we were going to hit that. And so we just spent a little more time explaining those. I think the other part that's really interesting that I'm very excited about is there are a number of legacy systems that are like still on-prem servers, super old school, that are running these essential industries of service and field technician work. And so we've been able to integrate with some of those that literally don't even have APIs because of some of the tooling and the AI that we have to do so. And to me, that's really exciting because I'm seeing just like this whole, everything's kind of coming together in some really exciting ways that I think wasn't really possible even 3 or 4 years ago. And so we just want to be on the edge of that, the cutting edge of that.
So listening to this, are you like, as a CEO, like, do you see right now like AI is like still optional, something I still have time to consider? Is it inevitable? Like, do I need it? Is it a must? Like for platforms that want to scale quickly, especially under PE pressure and bringing those returns.
I think it's inevitable. Here's why. You're not going to be able to solve your technology stack problem fast enough. Like the truth is, you got, whether it's third parties or you have a very antiquated ERP system or some combination thereof, and you have multiple systems in your organization. Maybe you buy a bunch of companies that have different ERPs and you're trying to, ultimately we always try to integrate those businesses into kind of one platform, but that takes time too. So you're always going to have this technical debt or backlog of integrations to do, right? So I think this is inevitable because if you don't start to leverage technology against itself, I know that sounds circular, but if you don't leverage technology against itself, your only other option is to build process and people into it, which to some extent costs you more, right?
Yeah.
So at least that's my perspective.
Love it. So then Ryan, for those listening, it's like, okay, I buy into this, I can see it, it's inevitable. Where do I start? How do I get ready? What's your advice for service leaders who are considering, jumping on this AI bandwagon? How do they get started? How do they become ready for it?
Yeah, so there's a couple things to look out for. Every company is an AI company now, even ones that have been around forever. It's just kind of a marketing thing. I actually would recommend reaching out to newer companies that have really AI native to their core. That's obviously us, so I'm a little bit partial to this advice. But the reason why I'm saying that is because, we've formed some really close partnerships with some of the more well-known AI, like language model, AI companies. And they've been very direct with us. Like they only want to work with and innovate with companies that have AI. Without AI, they don't have a business at all. And so for us, that's, I think the edge that you want to play into, because otherwise, there could be an AI little tool within a larger system that you still have to have 10 people use. I think you should be leaning into the companies that question the whole system being used in the way it's always been. And there's probably a higher return on investment for your business then.
Love that. And when you hear this, like what hesitations or concerns do you have about using, some of the, disruptive startups that are coming out like Mura, because you're typically buying the enterprise software and what integrates with them. Like, do you have any concerns there? Like, how do you think about this?
Yeah, I don't know that I have concerns. My concerns are more on like the change management side of this with your people, because unfortunately AI's got like this peanut butter visibility right now. Like the hourly worker in your workforce is just going to look at it as an enemy, right?
Yeah.
It's unfortunate because I think what Ryan's talked about in the last 35 minutes has nothing to do with that. It's more like a tool that helps them do their jobs better.
Yes.
And then it is a tool that wants to replace their jobs. But unfortunately, it's got a little bit of the stigma, right? So you have to watch out for the stigma. And I think the way you get around that is show them the path for ease and improvement, right? To make their job easier. I mean, if you can go from 25 invoices to 100 invoices and the 100 feels better than the 25 did, like, trust me, those people that are doing that are going to tell you that it's a better tool for them.
Yeah.
And so here's your
we've steered clear of using AI like that at all. We talk about it in conversations like this and investors love it and we are using it, but just like for our customers and the people using the tools, it's like, what if I told you guys I'm going to start a business and I have a website? It's like, of course you have a website. Like, of course you use AI. It doesn't really matter. It's just one of the 10 things that you need to make your business work. And that's what we use too.
Yeah.
I love it.
I almost think of it as like repositioning. It's more about process improvement in your business than it is about the AI helping you do it.
Yeah, like let's show you the ROI and your margin for your business will be better as a result.
Yeah, like sit down with a person and say, what if I could take your 25 invoices a day and make it 100 and it be less stressful for you? Right?
Yeah.
That's how I'd position it.
Totally.
Yeah. So that's your takeaway. AI in shared services isn't hype, it's real. Dispatch cut in half, invoices review, doubled, billing, backlogs gone, creating capacity without adding headcount. I mean, AI isn't replacing folks in the back office and shared services, like you said, guys. It's enabling them. It's freeing up capacity. It's accelerating cash flow, and it's really turning shared services and back office into a transformation engine to enable the rest of the business. So, Ryan, thank you for walking us through the story and the numbers. Pretty exciting, and I'm definitely a big believer in what you and Claire and the rest of the team are doing at Mura. And Gyner, thank you for always grounding us in what this means for operators on the ground. And for you guys who are listening in, I'm keen to hear from you. How have you seen the application of AI in the back office, and what are you seeing in the market? Would love to hear your thoughts and feedback. And until next time, make your days great. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Yassin.